Hi, I'm Tim Ellis. Thank you for joining us for Laneway Live. Tonight's special guest had won 2 FISM awards by the time he turned 18. He has an incredibly original illusion show that tours Europe. He's a fantastic magic sports player, and he's just launched a brand new show on YouTube called Fact or Fake. Please welcome Topas.
Fact or Fake, die Online-Quizshow zum Mitraten.
Jetzt auf YouTube.
It is so good to see you. Where are you right now?
I'm in my home office, as everybody, here in Stuttgart, Germany. Very happy to join you. It's great to see you this way. One of the advantages is that the world gets together a little bit in these strange times.
We do. The last time I saw you was at the Taiwan Magic Association convention.
Oh, wow. When was that? You remember the year?
Well, I just came back from doing another Taiwan Magic Association, so that was about 4 years ago, probably.
Okay.
You did your Hunchback act.
Yeah. Typecasting, yeah.
Now, the first.
And how are you? I mean, I have to ask you. I know this is an interview in the other direction, but I can't imagine what it's like if your country is, haunted by a catastrophe, and you go from one catastrophe to another. Probably the fires are still burning, so to speak.
Well, thank you for thinking of us. The bushfires are all pretty much all out, but yeah, it has been a bit of a rough 2020 for us. I know a lot of people are sitting there going, "Oh, I can't wait till 2019's over," and then 2020 comes in like, "Oh, hold my beer. I'm gonna take you out."
Was there a happy hour in between?
No,
Because really, this was going. I spoke to Raymond Crow, who I really admire for everything he does, and I hope I can say we became friends when we did Luis de Matos's Impossible show, and he talked about what it was really like, and about the way government handled the situation and all that. And it sounds like a terrible situation, and you go from that to a pandemic. That's crazy.
It has been challenging. I mean, the thing with this pandemic, of course, is that everybody's in it. It's a global thing. Nobody escapes. We're all in the same boat. So it does bring everybody together, not in a great way, but it brings us together, whether we like it or not. Whereas the bushfires, it was just, there were certain parts of Australia that were really heavily hit. Other parts of Australia were able to help them and support them and go out and look after each other. But in this case, we are all isolated in our own homes, and we have to sort of sit back and wait. We have to wait it out. So yeah, a lot of people have lost their jobs. The unemployment, of course, has skyrocketed, but the government here is really doing their best to look after everybody. And I think the same is happening in Germany, isn't it?
Exactly the same. In one instant, all the shows, all the tours, public tours, corporate shows were canceled. And, to this date, we don't know when we'll be back on stage and back doing shows. It's a little strange. And you try to become creative, but for me, it's going back and forth. It changes the way you look at things, I feel. It changes your psychological makeup. I'm very optimistic, and I was very lucky throughout my career, and I try and turn problems into this American thinking that a problem is a challenge. But when you look around you and people become depressed because they don't have any money anymore, especially in our professions, not only artists, but also technicians and agents, managements, it really affects you. And I hope that we will reach within the next, I don't know, days, hopefully, but weeks, maybe, a tipping point that we do know shows in the winter will happen. If that would be the case, if there was any government proclamation that the shows will be, the theaters will be open in December, that would help, I think, to have some hope. I'm not in the least on Mr. Trump's side in many things, but I understand that it's important to see, light at the end of the tunnel, to have some plan for the future. To this date, the shows in autumn, shows in fall are canceled throughout Germany, and from what I understand, maybe throughout Europe.
No, everywhere. The challenge, though, is that when you put a light at the end of the tunnel, I think you have to be a bit more realistic than what Mr. Trump said, where he said, "Oh, we're going to open up by Easter Sunday." And
Yes.
But now it's got to put a new light every week. Oh, no, next week, and then people get tired of that. So you've got to be realistic about it. And I think most of the people here in Australia are saying maybe July, but because that's how
that's optimistic as well, right? Yeah, we had a
good season though, because then the second bout of coronavirus could hit, because we're all going to have the flu. And so I think the realistic estimation is the end of the year.
Yeah. I'm not a political person, as you can tell. I was more, talking about the concept and not about specific dates. It's, of course, the other way around, and that may affect what we're dealing with, at least what I'm dealing with in my comedy shows, the esoteric approach that you can wish it away, and you have numerology and things like that to make the pandemic vanish. That's of course even more crazy and even more hurtful.
Is this something that's really going around? People are saying numerology. I mean, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories, but is this something that is real?
There was a Russian healer in the esoteric scene, and he gave out a 6-digit number, and you were supposed to shout it out, print it out, and hang it up, and that was that was supposed to help and fight the virus. Don't you hate it when our dark colleagues are trying to make money off of people suffering?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that easy to get rid of the virus. Why you should really spread the word. Exactly.
Yeah, no, but I guess people believe in it, and the thing that I found out about debunking stuff, it's of course a little too easy to make fun of these things, but when you meet affected people who are suffering, who may have lost somebody, it's a completely different basis for believing. And I have become a little more cautious with these things. It's talking about religion, talking about esoterics. It's not the victims should be not made fun of, but the people who use maybe a magician's technology and fully aware of doing that, who try to deceive people and benefit from it.
Absolutely. Well, I was chatting to Nicholas J. Johnson the other night, and he was saying it's very hard to debunk someone's theory using facts when they came to the theory without any facts in the first place.
Yes, that's very true. On the other hand, there may be a small fraction when you talk to the atheist community. There may be a small fraction who were doubting to begin with, and with the right amount of facts and certain skeptic notions, you may be able to really help them into an individual freedom of believing in facts instead of fantasy.
That would be helpful. That would be good. But then, speaking of fantasy,
yes. Oh wow, our topics are so serious. But then that's the pandemic, I guess.
It is. You are probably one of the most famous magicians in the world, though most people in Australia have probably not come across you because you've just been working non-stop in Europe, throughout Europe and throughout other countries in the world since, I would say, your first FISM appearance in 1988 in Den Haag.
Yes. Yeah, at The Hague, yeah.
And you won, oh, you came second in manipulation. And then you came back 3 years later for the next FISM, 1991, which I was at. And I remember that very clearly, in Lausanne, where you took out the manipulation prize, and you were the youngest person ever to take out a first prize.
Yes, and I vividly remember your 6-card repeat. I think you were one of the first magicians who brought, you know, parts of popular culture like rap and these things into the then a little, I shouldn't say old-fashioned, but traditional magic community, especially magic clubs. I don't think there were many people doing rap parodies and talking magic. Yeah, that was quite something. You know, it maybe we just become old, but I have such fond memories of these conventions, especially FISMs. On the other hand, the last few FISMs were just as inspiring. Who would have thought that, you know, back then when I won manipulation, there was a tradition of Dutch magicians, Henk Vermeiden, a famous director before me, and then there was influential people like Peter Marvey using manipulation aids for your hand, doing card productions with spread fingers. And that was, you know, before us were Fred Capps, Richard Ross, people from the Netherlands. Then there might have been a Stuttgart, a German, a bunch of people doing magic to vocal music, you know, like Franklin, myself, Simon Piero, and others. And I don't know what the generations in between were, but now it's South Korea. And whenever we you know, here, my magic friends and I, whenever we try to create manipulations, new manipulation, we say, well, it should be more Korean, meaning it should be very visual. There shouldn't be a lot of movement. There's a lot of transformations, one object to the other. And it's quite inspiring when you see that magic can so clearly evolve, you know, in front of your eyes. First time I saw Yu Ho Jin, I was blown away. I wouldn't have expected that in my lifetime somebody will be that great, you know, with such a big distance to you know, older manipulators. So it's really interesting, the evolution of manipulation.
And the thing about it is that now, even with close-up, if you're not doing close-up that looks like special effects,
yeah,
don't even bother entering the competition.
That's true, right? And it's so interesting. And of course, it's because a lot of manipulation online is really camera effects and editing and filters and stuff like that. But thank God there's people like Shin Lim who can do it live and in the media, much like Copperfield when he did his Hawaiian piece. Remember when somebody from the audience disappears on stage and goes to Hawaii? I think he was the first one using two different techniques for two mediums, meaning one for his special and one live.
Yeah,
which I think is just a great concept to get the maximum of deception, so to speak. But it's true. If I met Eric Chen recently, and of course, it's all when you see his stuff on television or see special clips, they look at perspectives and all of that. But I think that's just fair to take from the medium what the medium takes away from magic, usually by having, you know, this objective eye. And when I saw him live, I was just as fascinated, even a little more, of course, because I love when magic is done live. These answers are all too long, right?
no,
That's another pandemic podcast talking, and there's nobody nobody cutting you down. You don't have to finish it in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, no, it's very interesting because we are moving into another area. A lot of people comparing the online magic situation that we are being forced into to, you know, when silent movies came out and people thought this is the end of live shows, because we are, you know, there's been people doing online magic for years, but we're talking about a different sort of online magic. We're talking about interactive live magic. So we're not talking about just record your show and do it. We're talking about connecting with the audience through the screen, and you get ultra close up. You know, everyone gets a front row seat in the show, and everyone, even though you can have 500 people watching, they each get the opportunity to personally connect with the magician in a way that no other medium has ever done before. So we're still evolving.
Yes, we are, and don't they say that we're standing on the shoulders of giants? We will go back to people like Max Maven, who has done a lot of interactive, very often mathematical based stuff, but also, you know, suggesting stuff. So we have to go back to what Max has done years ago already, and has been a pioneer in his field, to now fill this medium. It's great that he has done that for television, what we need for social media now. I hope, hi Max, if you're listening, I hope they won't just copy him, but I hope they will add new things to it. But Max was a pioneer in this type of things, and I think Jim Steinmeier has 3 booklets out, Impossibilities, I think they're called, ingenious stuff. You know, maybe we'll see amazing things coming from that. We have to be optimistic. This video killed the radio star phenomenon that, oh, you know, we won't do live shows anymore. I don't believe in that at all. No. When television came up and people said, oh, your radio will die now. Nobody will gather in front of a radio in the, what was that, 1930s or so, I don't know. It didn't happen. No, where do we listen to the radio now? In our car. Because we, at the moment, until Elon Musk hasn't finished his self-driving global campaign, we can only listen. So now the car is the medium for radio. I'm optimistic there will be, live shows will never die. There's a specific feeling about them of community and the reactions, the interplay. I don't think any medium can affect that.
Well, the other aspect of it is the fact that you've got interactive mentalism, you've got connections you can do through the screen with magic, but you're also a stand-up comedian. How do you translate comedy through the medium of the screen?
Well, recently we've seen all the German comedians, you know, in front of their household shelves, and you know, much like American late night shows, we know now what Stephen Colbert's porch looks like, and yes. Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. So all the German comedians at the moment do what late night shows in the United States do. They film themselves in front of their porch, their kitchen, their home office, and tell their jokes. But it's different. The timing is different, of course. There's no laughs. And I mean, sometimes maybe even in the shows there's no laughs. But for sure, if you're just staring into a camera, it's a video essay more than a stand-up performance.
I think it would be much harder for the comedians to do their comedy to silence than it is for the magicians to entertain in the same medium.
I don't know what to compare it to. I guess very much like acting. If you're acting for the film camera, if you're a movie actor, of course, there's no reactions. And the lady in the editing room, or the man, editing, it doesn't have to be a lady, but I think of a famous one at the moment. They have to find this rhythm that a theater audience would normally suggest. So of course it's different when I don't know, Dustin Hoffman played Death of a Salesman in theaters. I think his timing must have been completely different than for a movie camera. Thank God he was a genius at both. But I guess it's just the challenge to adapt to a new medium, which is completely different. We cannot leave gaps for laughs as comedians when there's nobody there, but it's not impossible. Every comedy movie, whether it's slapstick or situation comedy, has to deal with this timing problem. And there's many theories on comedy. I've read a lot of books on writing and stuff like that, and it's very fascinating. But at the end of the day, your feeling, your gut tells you, was this the correct timing for the medium or not? And that's easier on stage. If you don't get any laughs, of course it didn't work. But for a movie, when you watch it and you have the feeling that, oh, this is all rushed, I missed a few things. When a cinema audience laughs, they laugh on the next joke. So we have to find a different timing. The result makes it pretty obvious if the timing is right or wrong.
And you've also experimented not just in those sort of areas, but also in areas where you wouldn't normally see magic, like on the rooftop.
Oh, how do you know that?
Everything. It was like your, yes, your salute to the Beatles.
Exactly. Of course, that's hubris, but well, the truth is, we had a longer run in a theater in Stuttgart, and I've done my blindfold drive, and I've done a few public stunts. So I thought, what could we do? And my management, Michael Fohler, knew people from, who were taking care of an important building in Stuttgart, in the city center, very famous building. And one day I stood down there and I said, wow, wouldn't it be great to do a levitation in the open air up there, just as a publicity stunt? And that's what we did. And the funny thing was, it wasn't easy to get it up there. The only chance was getting the table of this the floating platform and stairs and all the equipment through a very tiny window through one of the offices, and we were just lucky, just by really a few inches, to push it through there. But it was great fun because we didn't announce it. It was kind of a guerrilla moment, and we just stopped people down there on the street and just started to do our levitation. I wonder if you have any footage.
I might. You also had a live band as well.
Yes. The whole thing was for a show called One More, which is my fourth illusion show, and it's really a best of. I have 3 different illusion shows, and the fourth one was sort of a best of production with a live band. I'm very fortunate to have a close friend of mine, Andy Kraus, from a German comedy trio, very famous, called Eure Mütter, Your Mothers. And he composes all my songs. And Derek von Krog, who is Nena's musical producer and plays the keyboard on her live. Remember her maybe singing 99 Red Balloons. That's a famous singer in Germany. He produces my songs. So it was always, much like actors want to be rock musicians, I also want to be a rock musician. And that's my chance to be on stage with real musicians.
And that's the thing, you've done so many massive live tours around Germany, which is great. And you've finally tipped some of your work in a new DVD release called Virtuoso.
Oh yeah, that was a very important project for me. Luis de Matos is a very close friend of mine, and we've been talking about this for a long time, really literally for years. And we never got around to start it. I'm sure you're the same. There's a difference between importance and urgency. You know, some things you say, I really want to do that. I don't know why, you know, because now I do this, I do these shows, I do this tour. We had some tours through China, 2 productions, longer tours. And you always say, okay, now we finish this. And then maybe if there's a time, much like now, you know, when you can spend weeks on preparation, that's when we do it. But finally, we found that time, and really due to Luis, who said, now we're going to do this. We have to take a week in Portugal in his studio 33 and tape this. And he was, you know, he did all the planning on this. I provided all the material, but the structure I could have never done myself. You know, when you've been doing this for some time, there's just a heap of stuff, and it's very strange to organize that. You know, much like if I had 12 children, who, you know, who would I talk about in which moment? It felt a little like that. And he made a structure and put so much work in this. You would not believe what it takes to do something like EMC for DVDs set. He really looked into my stuff, and you know, imagine there is 9 hours eventually, I think, on the DVDs. He must have had what, 15, 20, I don't know, because I gave him additional material. And the subtitles alone, Luis's Vanessa, who I love very much, put the subtitles under my German-English babble. It takes forever. You know, I translated them into German. That's a nightmare. Rafael Banata translated it into Spanish, and you know, it's just, well, an enormous amount of work. And I'm very, very happy with it. Of course, when I see myself, I don't like myself. I don't like watching myself. I really don't. But you can't help but being happy about the documentation. you know, because many things just end up in a drawer or in the back of a warehouse. And in this case, he you know, pulled it all out and taped the FISM lecture that I've done for him in Lisbon. So now it's all there, and I can go, okay, that's that done, and I can look at new things, and I have the documentation.
I'll put a link for it down there because I think everyone should definitely get in and buy that immediately. Yes. I want to know though, is the inflatable wind dancer illusion in there?
Yes, it is. It's called Sky Dancer. Yeah, yeah, it's in there. And
kangaroo shoes?
The
kangaroo shoes?
No, because that's just the presentation for a bow staff illusion that Roy Schenk, and I think with the help of Jim Steinmeier, invented and built, and it became a dealer's item, one of the best illusions on the market. I think I really like that.
You're the only one with the kangaroo shoes though.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't do it with kangaroo shoes anymore.
I don't think you would. It was such a crazy idea.
Mainly because there's too little connection. I like the dynamics of it, but other than me being on shoes, there was very little bouncing around a box. And I liked it at the time for its style, but I thought, okay, well, when the hair gets a little gray on the side, I shouldn't pretend to be a bouncing guy in his 20s anymore.
But all your illusions are so innovative. I remember one with foam, or the foam would come down and suddenly you'd appear from the foam. And of course, you've got this new one with the chair. The launch.
Yeah, foam illusion was an original idea, and Jim Steinmeier made helped me a lot with this. He introduced a very special system that's his, because it's not a periscope, and it's not anything that I've seen anywhere else. After we had the original idea of using foam instead of cloth to cover up people, it came together in theory fairly quickly. The trouble was more that it's a huge mess. So many great ideas are like that. You go, wow, this is fantastic. And after a few weeks, you're like, why did I think of this? This was exactly. We filled our garage, in the place where we put our car, filled that up with foam to practice and the foam the material is very cold for those poor dancers and Roxanne. And so you have to heat it up, but then when you practice for a while, it becomes cold, and the soap gets in your eyes, and it's really a nightmare. And when Jim heard about the idea for the first time, we had a nice misunderstanding, but you won't get that. He wrote to me, don't forget the mops, meaning that we have to mop up our rehearsal room floor. And I thought, wow, how does he know that I have a pug? Because the German word for pug is mops. It doesn't even work as it's not mildly amused, but for me, that he always talking about my pug all of a sudden, and I thought mops would be the English name for a pug. But yeah, don't forget the mops. We had to use a lot of mops, and I'm very happy that Jim helped. And the other one you mentioned, yeah, the ejection seat, that's Mike Michael's original piece, but we changed the technology a little bit. He sells this effect from where he's based in Las Vegas, and we added a convincer. There's legs hanging on the elevated decolleté chair, so to speak. And we have a different system for disappearing. But sometimes I have the original idea, and in this case, the ejection seat itself and this great look of it, this technical look, is actually Mike Michaels.
Well, I think everyone should really just jump in and get your stuff, because there's very few people out there being so innovative and creative with illusions. And one of the things that you're known for with your illusions, of course, is your music, your live music. There's a whole beautiful sequences where you just make sound effects, just sequences where you just do sound effects between illusions. And there's the musical songs. And of course, we can't go past our FISM.
No. Actually, the same composer and producer team, Andy Kraus and Derek von Krog, helped me for hosting a FISM. I thought, you know, when there's Oscar shows, they have special contributions. Yes. for the hosts. You know, they have little clips they put together where the host finds itself in a movie scene. And I thought we have to have something like that. And for me, FISM has always been very important in many ways, but it symbolizes for me everything that's great about magic. You know, when I go to a FISM, I don't think about contracts and fame and audience numbers and stuff like that, but I think it reminds me of why I started magic. You know, I just walk around and I see, the best stuff in the world. I look at everybody in the competition and I'm a little, I'm a nerd for that, this type of thing. And I understand that for me, FISM is an amateur's convention in the best sense, because for me, that really means the love for magic. So when I don't want FISM to become a public thing. I don't want the audience to look at 5 manipulators of a Korean style in a row and not understand what we understand. I think to appreciate FISM, you have to be a magician or a lover of magic. And of course, there's stuff going on that to somebody from the outside world, when you look at it with the eyes of a comedian, it is a little strange. It is a grown-up man playing with feather flowers and plastic colored sticks and all of that. But I love it. I genuinely do love it. And it was the basis for many acts, for many careers. You know, it's many times the tipping point between being an amateur and a professional magician, and going on from there. Many professionals have entered and then started to do a lot of festivals. So to me, it's important. And I might add a little conservatively, I like it the way it is. I really do, without efforts to bringing in too much television or other media, destroying not only the experience for the people at the convention, but also the experience for people what magic can be outside, because magic has to be edited for media, and very often we cannot control what's going on when a normal television crew enters the dealer's room.
Yes. Well, that what we're talking about, for those who haven't caught on or weren't there, in 2009, Beijing, you were hosting one of the shows, and you managed to get a FISM choir. David Williamson, who else? Was Max Maven up there as well?
Yeah, everybody. Max, actually, there was Juan Tamares, David Williamson. I don't remember all of them. Forgive me if you were people were part of this, and I'm not saying their names now. And the choir was composed of all these famous magicians, and Max Maven conducted the choir.
That's right.
And it was just the obvious comedy gimmick, to sing a song solo for some time, and then at the grand finale, them come up and be the choir and sort of the big finale for this song. And somebody then after that put photos very lovingly, the perfect photos for the lines in the song, and thus you can kind of guess what the song is tries to convey, the meaning and emotions connected with the FISM, and I'm very thankful for that job.
Well, I think everybody really needs to share the love of FISM. We're going to be looking forward to going to Quebec next year, and hopefully the pandemic will be at least abated by then, so we'll be able to gather together and share in our FISM. But it's been fantastic having a chat with you. I know I could talk for hours about all the different illusions and all. I mean, we didn't even touch on things like Impossible and the other tours that you've been doing. But thank you so much for spending some time with us. And I think we're going to go out with that very song, our FISM. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fédération Internationale de Société Magique. This is FISM. It's très chic. All of us began with hardships. Some had girlfriends, we had card tricks. We thought pom-poms were just great, while our friends were getting laid. One thing is indeed quite tragic. Many people do hate magic, but in here we feel alright, watching coin routines all night. Here we love magic's tradition, and we hate the masked magician. From day one my faith was strong. It is here where I belong. FISM is the place to be. Geeks and pros are running free. It is where magicians mingle, and the linking rings will jingle. There are many acts to see. Cards are pumped extensively. It's where fooling feels so nice. Cheating is like paradise. So for strange men such as we, FISM is the place to be. FISM is the world convention. Look at magic's true dimension. Spanish come and Portuguese, this time even more Chinese. The most famous magic guys never won a FISM prize. Outside this convention hall, few of us are known at all, but we're known internally. So for guys like you and me, FISM is the place to be. Geeks and pros are running free. All the dealers sell the same, never mind from where they came. Only here on every car your contact number. Only here a magic sticker on your bumper. Only here no one uses cards to play, and no one thinks that scarves are gay. Only here himbo wallets don't need leather. Only here snowstorms don't rely on weather. Only here a zombie is a trick, not undead but on a stick. On a stick, FISM.